Welcome to the Calm Analytics channel. I'm Boris Tissenghausen. It's May 13th today. Here's the top news at this hour. Recently, Russians have felt the war return to its source, seeing it not just on their TV screens, but right through their own windows. Full immersion, as they say, thanks to Putin. So, Russians who suddenly heard sirens for the first time 2,500 kilometers from the border with Ukraine started asking awkward questions. Like, for example, where's the air defense? So, to explain to mere mortals where the air defense is, they decided to trot out the propagandist Solovyov. And now for the most interesting part. Solovyov decided to explain to Russians why Putin takes all the air defense for himself, leaving nothing for ordinary citizens. And he explains it with absolute sincerity. Take a listen.
Мы являемся свидетелями новой войны. Нас не могут победить на линии фронта. Поэтому войну переносят вглубь, войну переносят наше общество. Пытаются разгонять нарративы. Ну, конечно, вот они Москву защищают, а другие города не хотят защищать. Ну, послушайте, когда у вас размер страны, самая большая страна по площади в мире, а когда практически куда угодно может долететь, и никакое не украинское производство, там украинского зачастую только шилдик. А когда работают все страны НАТО со своими сателлитами и поставляют свою современную технику, то надо понимать, что пока мы наращиваем возможности, пока отсматриваем, да, конечно, существуют и очевидные приоритеты. При этом очевидные приоритеты существовали во всех войнах. Послушайте, ну когда-то великий политрук сказал, велика страна, а отступать некуда, Москва за нами. Москва – это сердце нашей Родины. Поэтому, конечно, пытаемся защитить все, но это война.
Come on, Russians, you're acting like children. Moscow needs protection, but for you, well, no air defense for you. See how Solovyov has changed his tune? A strike could land anywhere. Those naughty Ukrainians continue to treacherously defend themselves, bringing the war deep into Russia, hitting military plants, oil refineries, destroying air defense systems. But before, things were so good for Solovyov. Only Russians could strike deep into Ukraine, and now look how sad he's become. I'll say more. Every month, Ukraine increases the quantity, quality, and range of its strikes. Well, Solovyov's message is clear to everyone. I think there's no air defense, but hang in there. All the air defense is covering that Botox jellyfish in the Kremlin. But for you Russians, there's nothing left. By the way, friends, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You can do it right now. We're fighting Putin's propaganda here. Let's do it together. So please subscribe. And here's proof that the Russians are starting to believe propaganda less and less, and Solovyov too, apparently. Over the past 10 days, Russians have withdrawn 210 billion rubles in cash. This was reported by the Russian Central Bank. This is the highest amount since statistics began being published in 2011. Basically, Russians are starting to actively withdraw cash while they still can. And let me remind you, just the other day, budget execution figures were classified in Russia. And more persistently, rumors are circulating about freezing Russians' deposits. And immediately the news came out. Russian authorities are not considering tax hikes or freezing deposits. It's all fake. It's all lies, stated Russian Finance Minister Anton Silvanov. Well, of course, we believe it. It's all lies. So Russians now, whoever can, are quickly taking their deposits out of banks. Well, to keep Russians from running and actively withdrawing deposits, to calm them down a bit, they need to be distracted. And today the Russians launched hundreds of drones at Ukraine, changing tactics again. Some drones are flying along the border with Belarus at a distance of 5 to 10 kilometers toward Ukraine's western regions. They're attacking Lutsk, attacking Rivne, and not just there. Shades, Gerbers, and parodies are coming in a mix. Well, you know, Lukashenko was warned long ago not to play with fire and not to set up any relays to direct Shaheds on his territory. We're waiting for a report from our specialists after this attack. I think the expired potato pancake had a hand in it. And the Russians decided that everything they'd accumulated over several days of a very, very conditional, I wouldn't even call it a truce, just a period of accumulating Shaheds. They decided to throw everything they'd accumulated at Ukraine in one go. It's possible that after the mass Shahed attack, missiles will follow, especially since the GUR reports that a prolonged massive attack on Ukraine has begun in several waves. Drones, then maybe there will be missiles. So we're responding to the alarms. It's clear there was no truce, It was just these few days for the Russians to stockpile these drones. Now that's a real surprise, isn't it? Putin wanted peace so much, right? Donald Trump. But he forgot one thing. That balding creep sitting in the Kremlin, that Ukraine has also accumulated something. And tonight they've already sent some important facilities, greetings from our drones. Let me correct Solovyov. He said they fly anywhere. They don't fly just anywhere. They fly where they need to. So there's a fire in the port of Taman after a drone attack. The seaport of Taman is one of Russia's deepest commercial ports. Oil and petroleum products are exported through it as well. Basically, it seems Russian ports and refineries are in for a new batch of fiery greetings. But that's not all. Nurlino, that's in the Republic of Bashkortostan, the largest linear production and dispatch station. It's part of Transneft and is a key hub for main oil pipelines. In that region, 1,500 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, Nurlino is ablaze. But that's not all. The Astrakhan gas processing plant is also on fire. The attack was confirmed by the regional governor, Igor Babushkin. As usual, the local authorities there claim that everything was shot down. But there's a catch. Debris fell, and it fell so precisely that a fire broke out right at the plant. So that's the story. This kind of thing, by the way, happens all the time. I don't know how they manage to do it, how they shoot down our drones so that the debris hits the target exactly. And well, Russia decided it needs to threaten everyone at once and decided to threaten Armenia. The speaker of the Russian State Duma, Vyacheslav Volodin, criticized Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan after European leaders visited Yerevan. He didn't just criticize him, he's openly threatening him. Let me quote Volodin. A parallel inevitably arises. This is exactly how it all started in Ukraine. Do ordinary citizens of Armenia really need this? Volodin asks. Well, the threat here is blatant. I mean, Volodin's statement wasn't a slip of the tongue. He's the Speaker of the State Duma for a second. The thugs have crawled out of the back alleys. Putin's little ghouls decided to threaten Armenia as well. I think they believe they have the right to just decide for all post-Soviet states, I guess. Remember how Putin recently stated that it all began, the war in Ukraine, with Ukraine wanting to join the European Union? Can you imagine Ukraine wanted something and didn't ask Putin? How does that concern you, you Botoxed old geezer? Russia, by the way, long ago claimed the right to interpret the sovereignty of post-Soviet states as conditional, meaning, well, as long as your direction aligns with Moscow's, you have sovereignty. Otherwise, you don't. As soon as a country starts looking toward the West, the Kremlin activates this warning doctrine of theirs. Official figures begin to issue public threats. Occasionally, of course, it looks quite strange and comical if Medvedev is the one doing it, for example, but here's Volodin openly threatening. And he's not just threatening, he's questioning Armenia's sovereignty, history, and culture. Like, do you even need this? Are you even independent at all? And what can you do without us? Remember how they used to say that everyone around the Russian Federation is some kind of made-up fake country? You had no territory of your own. It was given to you by Lenin, by Stalin, or someone else signed it over to you. Classic low-life diplomacy. But, the main question here is something else. Are they actually afraid of Russia's threats in Armenia right now? Judging by the direction Armenia has taken and Pashinyan's rhetoric before meeting with Putin, no one is afraid of that balding centipede anymore. By the way, I wouldn't be surprised if Armenia soon seriously raises the issue of closing the Russian military base in Gyumri. And just for Volodin's information, maybe he'll open a real history textbook one day. The Armenian state has existed since 190 BC. Think about it. Armenian cultural and historical identity goes even deeper, the 9th century BC. In the year 301, Armenia became the first state in the world to officially adopt Christianity, several centuries before anything at all appeared where Russia is today. At that time, when Armenia had already officially adopted Christianity, Volodin's ancestors were still sitting in swamps, wondering whether to come out in the spring or not. Well, Ukraine and Ukrainians are showing the whole world that it's possible and necessary to fight the enemy, even if they outnumber you many times over in manpower and equipment. In every episode, we have an important fundraiser for the defense forces of Ukraine. Today, we continue the fundraiser for drones and charging stations for the 37th Marine Brigade, which is defending in the Donetsk direction. The soldiers recorded a video message for you. Please take a look.
Мене звати тату Аня. Я громадянка Бельгія. Я служу у складу 37-ї бригади морської піхоти. Звертаюся до Борис Тізан-Озен та його підписників.
Ми є військовослужбовцями 37-ї окремої бригади морської піхоти зенітного ракетно-артилерійського дивізіону. Наразі маємо потребу у зенітних дронах у кількості 100 одиниць. Просимо про допомогу у Бориса Тізенхаузена.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
In the video is Anna Anyatatou from Belgium. She serves as a drone operator in the 37th Marine Brigade. Despite the fact that Anna has a prosthetic, she's incredibly strong and charismatic, showing the whole world how to overcome challenges. When the war started, Anya came to Ukraine, first as a volunteer, and now she serves in the 37th Brigade. Let's help our Marines from the 37th Brigade. The link to the fundraiser is in the description of this video. There's Mono, Privat, and PayPal for those who want to help from abroad. There's always a QR code in the corner. That's for those watching on another channel. It also leads to the fundraiser. Well, also yesterday we handed over a pickup truck to very reliable hands. The pickup truck you helped fund was handed over to our defenders from the 96th Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade. I met with them here. Take a look at this photo. I think the happy faces of the soldiers best convey the joy of finally receiving the long-awaited pickup truck, and this is all thanks to you. Once again, I'm convinced of just how cool you all are. But together, we are simply a great force. The soldiers, by the way, gave me a flag with their signatures. I took it. Look, here it is. And taking this opportunity, I took the liberty of passing on words of gratitude from you to our soldiers. Anyway, thank you so much. Also, I came across, a very touching post yesterday from the 1st Medical Battalion, which we regularly help. The post was titled, In Memory of MOL 35. MOL is a ground-based unmanned robotic system equipped with an armored capsule. And with the help of such systems, it's possible to evacuate the wounded from the front lines and save the lives of our defenders. So, the Medical Battalion dedicated a video to one such system that faithfully did its job, but was, unfortunately, destroyed by the enemy. They wrote the post on behalf of the robot, which lived a bright but very short life. So this MOL 35, this robot, had over 10 missions and saved 6 seriously wounded soldiers. They wrote, the 1st Medical Battalion wrote, "We will not forget you." Well, overall, it looked very touching. I'll remind you that we helped raise funds for several such systems, and those are specifically saved lives. I'm grateful to you, dear subscribers, for helping Ukraine and helping our defenders. Meanwhile, the Financial Times writes that the military command has convinced Putin that Russia will be able to capture Donbas by autumn. They haven't captured it in 2.5 years of a major war, but they'll capture it by autumn. It's all logical. They haven't captured Malotokmachka in a year and a half, but they'll capture Donbas in 3 months. Of course they will. Sometimes it seems to me that in Putin's inner circle, there are those who intentionally want to lead him to total collapse and Russia to a complete failure. Or maybe I'm wrong? Or maybe it's just a bunch of stupid, greedy, cowardly, short-sighted KGB agents? I just don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. They're just kind of dim-witted, not seeing they're pushing Russia into an abyss and themselves along with it. They won't be able to escape either. They'll be the first to tear each other apart. And another piece of news, the US has sent its military personnel to Ukraine to teach them how to use UAVs. This was stated by the US Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. Europe and the US are now learning from Ukraine. And not just Europe and the US, but also countries in the Middle East. That's a fact. In the last program, I talked about how Germany is now building long-term programs for the joint production of strike systems with Ukraine. Ukraine has de facto already become the backbone of a new alliance. It's just that no one has said it out loud yet. And here's another relevant news item. Ukrainian UAV operators crushed Swedish troops during NATO exercises. On the island of Gotland, the Ukrainians played the role of the attacking side. The Swedes stopped the exercises 3 times to change tactics, but in a real battle, we know that no one can stop the action. In a real fight, their positions would have already been destroyed 3 times over, and the commander-in-chief of the Swedish Armed Forces admitted that NATO armies urgently need to learn drone warfare from Ukraine. There's no sarcasm here. They really do need to learn. It's a unique experience, and Ukrainians are ready to share this experience with pleasure, and they are doing so. The only thing is, Ukraine is asking for more decisiveness regarding the Russian Federation and the underground commander who runs it, and the next news item is exactly about that. Nearly 200 ships of the Russian Shadow Fleet passed quietly through UK waters. Despite loud promises to detain them, BBC reports. In March of this year, the kingdom's authorities authorized the detention of ships that are under sanctions and linked to the Russian Federation. And then Prime Minister Keir Starmer promised to deal another blow to the Russian Shadow Fleet. However, as the BBC found out, since then, at least 184 sanctioned vessels have passed through British waters, making 238 trips. At the same time, journalists found no evidence that the British military boarded even one of these vessels. But here's an important point. I'd like to remind you that the Kremlin thug perceives indecision as weakness, with all the resulting consequences. Right now, it seems to me, is the very moment when everyone needs to pile on this Botox-filled nuisance together. Judging by the dismal parade, Putin's pseudopodia are already shaking. We need to keep the pressure on all together. And one more piece of news. I really liked it, but I called it the magic of numbers. The 7th Russian oil refinery since the start of spring has shut down due to Ukrainian drone strikes. Do you know the magic of numbers here? It's that this refinery is the 7th one that Ukrainian drones have shut down since the start of spring, but it's also the 7th largest in terms of processing volume in Russia, 12 million tons per year. And our drones also hit it on May 7th. So that's the kind of magic of numbers we're seeing. Beautiful. The armed forces of Ukraine know how to surprise. 7 refineries have been shut down since the start of spring, and large ones at that, and the pace is only increasing. That's why this whole Kremlin satanic ball is twisting in pain. That's why they're going crazy. So the only thing they have left is to strike the peaceful cities of Ukraine right now. Well, it's the only option they have because the front is at a complete stalemate. But Ukraine will pay them back in spades. Believe me, I think tonight or the next, everyone within a 2,000-kilometer radius will be in trouble. And you, friends, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, subscribe to this channel, don't forget. I'm asking you, let's help our glorious Marines and Anita too. The link to the fundraiser is in the description of this video. Our help is needed very, very much right now. Have a peaceful day, everyone, and glory to Ukraine.